Dr. Evelyn Cade crouched in the dimly lit excavation chamber, her fingers trembling as she dusted off the ancient object that had brought her to the edge of discovery and danger. The artifact, a small, intricately carved stone tablet, was cold to the touch, its surface etched with symbols that she could not yet fully decipher. But what had caught her attention was a series of coordinates hidden within the markings, a set of numbers that appeared to correspond to a distant star system, Earth's solar system. Evelyn's heart raced. Earth, humanity's birthplace, long considered lost, forgotten, or even mythologized. The relic was supposed to be a part of a hoax, an old cultural artifact from a time when stories of Earth were little more than fables. But as she ran the numbers through her portable scanner, her suspicions were confirmed. The coordinates pointed directly to Earth. But why would anyone hide Earth's location? And why hadn't anyone thought to search for it in centuries? The answer came quickly in the form of a loud, unmistakable click, the sound of a gun's safety being disengaged. Evelyn spun around, her pulse thundering in her ears. Standing in the doorway of the chamber was a group of men in dark tactical suits. They were too precise in their movements, too uniform in their presence. Mercenaries. "You should have left this place alone," Dr. Cade, a man with a shaved head and a scar running down his cheek, said, his voice low and dangerous. "This isn't for people like you to find." Evelyn's fingers instinctively wrapped around the tablet. If she could just make it out of here, she could send a signal to someone, anyone. She had no idea who these men worked for, but she knew that if she didn't get the map to the right people, Earth's secrets would be lost once more. "I'm not afraid of you," she said, standing straighter. "You have no idea what you've stumbled into. Earth isn't just some legend. It's a treasure trove of untapped knowledge, and you'll regret trying to stop me from revealing it." The scared man smirked, the corner of his mouth twitching. "We don't care about your treasure, Cade. We care about the people who would kill for it." Before Evelyn could react, the men lunged. She darted to the side, narrowly avoiding a heavy fist that would have knocked her out cold. The tablet slipped from her grasp, but in that split second, she grabbed a small metal device from her belt and activated it. A burst of light erupted, temporarily blinding the mercenaries. Evelyn didn't wait to see if they recovered. She sprinted for the exit, the dim corridor outside her only escape. Her breath quickened as she ran through the narrow passageways, the sound of boots pounding behind her. She turned corners at random, trying to throw off her pursuers, but she could hear them getting closer. There was no way out. The ship was too far for her to reach on foot. As she approached a junction in the corridor, a voice crackled over her comlink. "Evelyn, get to the surface now. We're out of time." It was a voice she recognized, Dr. Daniel Morrow, her former colleague and trusted friend. "Daniel, they found me," she panted, her voice strained with fear. "They're coming for the map." "You have to get it off planet," Daniel's voice urged. "We can't risk it falling into the wrong hands." She couldn't argue with him. Evelyn had to escape. She didn't have much time. Glancing back one last time, she saw the shadow of the mercenaries rounding the corner. A surge of adrenaline flooded her system as she bolted, her feet pounding against the cold metal floor. Her escape was now a race, against time, against fate, and against the powerful forces that would stop at nothing to keep Earth's secrets buried forever. The door to the surface slid open with a soft hiss, and Evelyn sprinted into the night. The stars above glittered like diamonds, and somewhere out there, across the vast expanse of space, was a planet that could hold the key to humanity's greatest legacy. She was going to find it, and nothing would stop her. Evelyn stumbled onto the tarmac of the abandoned spaceport, her lungs burning as she fought to control her ragged breathing. The cold air of the desolate moon was a stark contrast to the heat of the chase. She barely glanced over her shoulder. She knew they were close, and they wouldn't stop until they had her. The distant hum of engines reached her ears, and her pulse quickened. Her ship, The horizon sat in the shadow of a massive, decaying structure, its engines idling, ready to take off at a moment's notice. But it was not the ship that had brought her here. It was the crew waiting inside, a group of unlikely allies who had agreed to help her get the map off planet and into the right hands. Inside the cockpit, Daniel Mara's voice crackled over the comms. "Evelyn, you're cutting it close. They've already begun to scramble reinforcements." His words were clipped, and Evelyn could hear the tension in his voice. "Get on board, now." Evelyn made her way quickly up the loading ramp, her eyes scanning the shadows for any sign of pursuit. She was inside just as the sound of footsteps grew louder. The mercenaries had tracked her here. A moment later, the ramp closed with a soft thud, and she collapsed into the nearest seat, the map clutched tightly in her hands. "Close call," muttered Riker Steele, the ship's commander, as he punched a few commands into the console. His face, weathered by years of conflict, betrayed nothing but a hint of exhaustion. "We're clear for now, but we're not out of the woods yet. We've got a few friends who won't take kindly to us knowing about Earth." Evelyn nodded, rubbing her face with one hand. She had been through too much in too little time. "The Echelon," she said, her voice low but firm. "I didn't realize how far they'd gone to keep Earth hidden." Riker's jaw tightened. The Echelon's a shadow faction, older than most galactic governments. They'll do whatever it takes to keep that secret locked away. He leaned back in his seat, his eyes narrowing as he studied her. "You sure you know what you're getting us into?" "One way or another, we'll find out," Evelyn replied, trying to steady her breath. "I don't know who else can be trusted, but I know this: Earth holds something more than just our history. There's power there, power that could change everything." She reached into her jacket pocket and pulled out the tablet, setting it down on the console in front of him. "And this is the key." Riker studied the map. "So, where do we start?" Before Evelyn could answer, the voice of Area Solis, the ship's engineer and one of the most brilliant, but unpredictable, minds she had ever met, cut in over the comms. "We need to get moving, and fast. The mercenaries aren't the only ones hunting us. The moment we entered Earth's system, we triggered a warning beacon. We've got some company, and it's not friendly." Evelyn's stomach twisted. She had feared this. Earth's location might have been lost, but something, or someone, had always been keeping watch. And now, whoever or whatever that was had been alerted. "How much time do we have?" Riker asked, already moving to the navigation controls. 10 minutes, max," Aria's voice answered, sharp and urgent. "I've locked down the engines and set us on a course for the nearest outer rim outpost. But it won't be enough to shake them if they know what we're carrying." Riker's hands moved expertly over the controls as the ship's thrusters roared to life. Evelyn could feel the hum of the engines as the horizon shot off the surface of the moon, its trajectory set for the cold void of space. As they broke free from the moon's atmosphere, the stars stretched out before them, silent, infinite, and indifferent. "Don't expect to outrun them for long," Aria said, a slight edge to her tone. "They've got tracking technology that we can't shake unless we make some serious modifications to our ship, and that's going to take time." "We don't have time," Evelyn replied, her voice hard. "We need to find Earth, and fast." Riker turned to her, his face lit by the dim glow of the cockpit. "We'll need to go dark, avoid all traffic lanes, and get as close to Earth's system as possible without anyone noticing." Evelyn nodded, her mind already racing through the map's coordinates, wondering what awaited them at the end of this journey. She could already hear the whispers in her head, the words of ancient texts she had uncovered during her research. Earth was not just the cradle of humanity, she murmured aloud. It was the heart of an empire, a power capable of reshaping the galaxy. Whoever controls it controls everything. Riker's eyes hardened. Then we'd better be ready to fight for it. As the ship sped toward the unknown, Evelyn's thoughts turned to the future. She had a responsibility now, No, a duty to find Earth's lost power before the Echelon or anyone else could use it for their own gain. And no matter the cost, she would succeed. But deep down, she couldn't shake the feeling that discovering Earth's secrets might come with consequences none of them were prepared for. The stars outside the horizon were vast and distant, their cold, indifferent light casting faint shadows on the walls of the cockpit. Evelyn's eyes were fixed on the star map, the coordinates glowing softly on the display, pulling her deeper into the mystery of Earth's lost past. They were getting closer. Her pulse quickened as the weight of their mission settled heavily on her shoulders. "All right," Riker said, his voice steady but tinged with urgency. "We've entered the outer rim. From here on out, it's a blind run. No signals, no traffic lanes, just us and the void." He turned his gaze to the crew. "We stick to the plan. We find Earth, no matter the cost." Evelyn looked around the cockpit at her fellow crew members, each of them focused on their tasks. There was Aria, hunched over the communications array, her brow furrowed in concentration as she monitored the ship's systems. Aria had proven to be an invaluable asset with her sharp mind and technical skills, but there were always undercurrents of mystery surrounding her. Evelyn could never quite shake the feeling that there was more to her than met the eye. Then there was Daniel Morrow, who had been working tirelessly on deciphering the ancient texts that accompanied the map. A historian by trade, Daniel was the closest thing Evelyn had to a trusted ally in this mission. He had been the one to convince her that Earth's hidden legacy wasn't just a myth, but a powerful reality. "We're going to need to make a few adjustments to avoid detection," Aria said without looking up from her console. "I'm rerouting the power systems, but it'll be a tight squeeze. If they're tracking us with any advanced technology, they'll spot us long before we reach Earth." "You've got your work cut out for you," Riker muttered, more to himself than to her. He hit a series of buttons, guiding the horizon through a series of evasive maneuvers designed to obscure their signature. "Keep us undetectable, Aria. The last thing we need is someone catching wind of our location." Evelyn's thoughts drifted back to the map. Earth. She had always assumed it was just a symbol of humanity's lost glory, a distant memory buried under centuries of history. But now, the map's significance was undeniable. Something hidden there had the potential to change the galaxy. But who else knew about it? The question gnawed at her. As their ship hurtled deeper into uncharted space, the nagging feeling that they were being watched persisted. It wasn't just the mercenaries or even the Echelon. There was something more, something older, that had kept Earth hidden. And now, they were awakening it. But what price would they have to pay for disturbing that ancient slumber? "Evelyn," Daniel called out from the back of the ship, pulling her from her thoughts. "You need to see this." She stood quickly, walking to where he was hunched over a series of holographic projections. Daniel's face was tight with concentration, but there was an undeniable glint of excitement in his eyes. "What have you found?" Evelyn asked, leaning over his shoulder. "Look at this," Daniel said, zooming in on a set of ancient symbols that flickered across the display. "I've been cross-referencing this with known alien languages, and I believe I've cracked part of the code. The map isn't just pointing to Earth, it's also marking something on Earth itself, a location buried deep beneath the planet's surface." Evelyn's heart skipped a beat. "A location? What kind of location?" "I don't know yet," Daniel admitted, his voice tense. "But it's something important. Whoever built this map went to great lengths to hide it. It's like they were protecting something they didn't want anyone to find." Riker's voice crackled over the intercom. "We're approaching Earth's orbit. We've got to prepare for landing. Aria, how are we looking on the power route?" Aria's voice was a calm contrast to the tension building in the room. "Everything's running at minimum capacity. I've disabled most of our exterior signatures, but we won't be able to go completely dark. If we're lucky, we'll land undetected." "Good," Riker replied, "but don't get comfortable. The minute we set foot on that planet, We're walking into the unknown. We need to be ready for anything. Evelyn's stomach tightened as she stared out of the viewports. Earth's atmosphere was slowly coming into view, a pale blue orb, eerily serene against the vast blackness of space. The planet had always been the symbol of humanity's past glory, but now it felt more like a dangerous unknown. As the horizon glided closer, Evelyn couldn't shake the feeling that they were not the only ones watching Earth. Whatever lay beneath the surface of this planet, it was guarding secrets that no one was meant to uncover. And as the ship descended, she realized something even more chilling. Earth might not have been abandoned at all. Something, or someone, might have been waiting for them to return. The thought sent a shiver down her spine as they broke through the planet's atmosphere, their journey into the unknown beginning in earnest. The descent was smooth, but every second that passed felt like a countdown to disaster. The horizon pierced through the thick clouds of Earth's atmosphere, and as the ship neared the surface, the view below revealed the haunting remnants of a once great civilization. Endless ruins stretched out across the landscape, a testament to the vanished glory of humanity. Towering, broken skyscrapers lined cities that had long since been abandoned, their glass and metal frames now weathered by centuries of neglect. Touchdown in T-2 minutes. Riker's voice echoed through the ship's intercom, his calm demeanor belying the unease in the air. He glanced at Evelyn, who stood at the front of the ship, her eyes fixed on the planet below. "You ready for this?" Evelyn nodded, her heart pounding. She had always known Earth would be different from the stories, but nothing had prepared her for this. The planet was both beautiful and terrifying, a paradox of a lost world filled with forgotten wonders and untold dangers. As the ship's engines quieted, Aria's voice interrupted the silence. "We're not alone." Evelyn's stomach lurched. "What do you mean?" "I'm reading multiple unidentified signatures moving toward us," Aria replied. "Fast, and they're not human." Before Evelyn could respond, the ship shuddered violently as if struck by a powerful force. Warning lights flashed across the console. What the hell was that? Riker cursed as he gripped the controls, trying to stabilize the craft. "They're here," Aria said, her voice tense. "I'm shutting down all non-essential systems. We need to go dark immediately." But it was already too late. The sound of metal scraping against metal echoed from outside the hull, followed by a guttural roar. From the shadows of the ruined city, enormous humanoid figures emerged, tall, armored creatures with glowing red eyes. Their bodies were sleek and angular, like living machines, but with an unsettling organic quality. They were the Sentinels, the guardians of Earth's ancient secrets. Evelyn's blood ran cold. "Aria, get us out of here," Riker barked. "I'm trying," Aria snapped, frantically typing in commands. "But they've already jammed our engines. We're stuck." A voice, cold and mechanical, echoed from outside the ship's hull, transmitted through their comms. "Intruders, leave this place. Earth is under our protection." The Sentinels had arrived. "Hold on," Riker shouted. With one quick motion, he threw the ship into reverse, attempting to evade the massive metallic guardians that were now surrounding them. The ship lurched backward as one of the Sentinels slammed a massive fist into the ship's side, sending a shockwave through the hull. Sparks flew from the controls, and the lights flickered. Evelyn stumbled, catching herself against the bulkhead, her heart racing. "We need to get to the surface. We can't fight them off in the ship." Riker nodded grimly. "Agreed, we've got no choice. Everyone, prepare to disembark. We need to find shelter, and fast." The sound of another crash rocked the ship, and this time, the outer wall buckled under the pressure. The metal screamed in protest as one of the Sentinels reached out, its fingers like blades attempting to tear the hull apart. The ship groaned as it shook, and then, with a final rending noise, the door to the cargo hold flew open, spilling the crew into the chaotic, ruined world outside. "Move," Riker ordered, drawing his sidearm as he sprinted toward the wreckage of a nearby skyscraper. "Stick to cover. We can't outrun them in the open." Evelyn followed, her mind racing. She hadn't expected to encounter such hostility so soon. The Sentinels weren't just machines. They were alive, intelligent, and they knew exactly how to hunt. The only reason they hadn't been destroyed over the centuries was that they had never needed to be. Until now. The crew moved quickly, ducking behind shattered walls and broken vehicles as they made their way toward the heart of the city. The air was thick with dust, the smell of decay heavy in the wind. Yet, amid the ruins, there was something hauntingly familiar about Earth. The distant sound of gunfire rang out, and Evelyn's pulse quickened. She knew the Sentinels were closing in, but there was no turning back now. "This way," Area called, pointing to an underground tunnel entrance beneath the remnants of an old transport station. Without hesitation, the crew dove for the entrance, disappearing into the dark, forgotten depths of Earth. As the last of them descended into the tunnel, Evelyn looked back, just in time to see the towering figures of the Sentinels approaching the wreckage of their ship, their glowing eyes scanning the surroundings. "Earth is not abandoned," Evelyn murmured to herself, a chill creeping down her spine. "And neither are its protectors." The door to the tunnel closed behind them, sealing them in the darkness. They were deep in enemy territory now, and whatever secrets Earth held, it seemed, they would have to fight every step of the way to uncover them. "Let's move," Riker said, his voice firm. "We need answers, and we need them fast. Before these things find us again." Evelyn nodded, her heart racing with anticipation. They were no longer just explorers, they were intruders, and the Sentinels would stop at nothing to keep the truth buried. But she couldn't turn back. Not now, not when they were so close. The tunnel was damp and cold, the air stale with the scent of old earth and metal. The walls, lined with ancient pipes and cables, hummed faintly as the crew moved forward in silence, each step echoing through the dark labyrinth. The dim glow of their flashlights barely illuminated the path ahead, casting eerie shadows against the walls. Evelyn's mind raced. The Sentinels weren't just guardians, they were protectors, and they had been waiting for centuries. The fact that they had immediately engaged them the moment they landed on Earth meant one thing. Earth was not as forgotten as everyone had assumed. Someone, or something, had been keeping watch. She turned to Riker, who led the group through the narrow corridor. His face was grim, and his hand rested on the grip of his sidearm, ready for anything. "How much further?" Evelyn asked quietly. "We've got a few clicks to go," he replied, his voice low, "but we'll need to be careful. The Sentinels won't stop hunting us just because we're underground. We need to find out what's down here before they do." Evelyn nodded. "And what do we do when we find it?" "We survive it," Riker muttered, his gaze flicking to the others behind him. "And we get out with what we came for." They pressed on, their boots crunching against the metal floor as they moved deeper into the belly of the planet. The tunnel system was expansive, as if it had once been part of a vast subterranean city, now abandoned and forgotten by time. Every corner they turned seemed to lead them into further darkness, and the silence was almost oppressive. As they walked, Daniel spoke up from the rear. "I've been trying to decode more of the map," he said, his voice almost lost in the echoes of their footsteps. "But it's not just coordinates we're looking at. There's a pattern, like a blueprint for something buried here. The location we're headed toward, it's not just a city. It's a facility of some sort, a very old one." "Any idea what kind of facility?" Arya asked, her voice sharp with curiosity. Daniel hesitated. "No, but the symbols are unlike anything I've seen before. And the structure itself, it doesn't look like anything human-built. It's older, much older." Evelyn's stomach tightened. She had always suspected that Earth held more than just humanity's forgotten history. It was more than a birthplace. It was a cradle of something far more ancient, something that had been lost to time. But this, A facility hidden beneath the surface for millennia? That was a whole new level of mystery. Any defenses left in there? Riker asked, glancing back at Daniel. I don't know, but whatever's left, it won't be friendly. The tension in the air thickened. They knew they weren't the only ones hunting for Earth's secrets now. The Sentinels were just the beginning. Whoever had built this underground facility had meant for it to remain hidden, and they had gone to extraordinary lengths to ensure that no one would find it. That knowledge alone was enough to make Evelyn's skin crawl. If the Sentinels were only a fraction of what was waiting, they would be walking into a storm. Suddenly, Aria's voice interrupted the quiet, her tone urgent. Hold up, something's wrong. There's an energy reading up ahead, a power surge. It's like the facility just came online. Evelyn froze. Online? Yes, Aria confirmed. It's like the whole place just woke up. The systems are reactivating, and that means the Sentinels are probably getting a signal too. Riker cursed under his breath. We don't have time. We need to get to that facility fast. Whatever's waking up down here might be our only chance at getting the answers we need. They quickened their pace, urgency in their steps now. The deeper they went, the stronger the hum of ancient power became. It wasn't just energy, it was as if the very walls of the tunnel pulsed with life. Evelyn's pulse quickened in sync with the vibrations in the air, and she couldn't help but feel a strange connection to the place, as if the facility was calling to her, drawing her closer. Finally, after what felt like hours, they reached a massive door, its surface covered in intricate carvings that seemed to pulse with faint light. It was unlike anything Evelyn had ever seen. This wasn't just a door, it was a seal, keeping something locked away. The energy emanating from it was undeniable, and Evelyn could feel the weight of history pressing down on her. Daniel stepped forward, his eyes scanning the symbols. This is it. This is the heart of it. Riker stepped beside him, reaching for his weapon. Is it safe to open? Evelyn didn't wait for an answer. Her hand hovered over the console, the device in her bag buzzing faintly in response to the ancient technology. It has to be. Whatever's behind this door could change everything. She pressed the button. The door groaned, metal screeching against metal as it slowly began to open, revealing what lay beyond. The darkness beyond the door swallowed them whole, and they stepped inside, unaware that the very act of entering this ancient chamber might be the catalyst that would set Earth's long-forgotten legacy into motion. The door creaked open with a haunting sound, its weight dragging across the floor as if it hadn't moved in millennia. A cold draft rushed out from the dark abyss beyond, carrying with it the scent of long-forgotten technology and ancient dust. The flickering lights of the crew's flashlights barely illuminated the space beyond, revealing a vast chamber, its size almost impossible to comprehend. Evelyn stepped forward cautiously, her heartbeat thundering in her ears as she surveyed the room. The walls were lined with massive, glowing panels, their surfaces covered in strange symbols and intricate designs. The air hummed with energy, faint but unmistakable, like the pulse of something alive. Is this it? Aria whispered, her voice a mixture of awe and caution. This is the heart of the facility? Evelyn nodded, though the enormity of it all left her momentarily speechless. This wasn't just a facility, it was a monument, a testament to something far older than human civilization. The sheer scale of the technology here was staggering, and yet it seemed dormant, but not for long. The energy readings Aria had detected were intensifying by the second. Daniel, can you make sense of any of this? Riker asked, his voice low, wary. Daniel moved forward, eyes wide as he scanned the walls with a mix of fascination and trepidation. It's like a giant repository of knowledge, but it's more than that. These panels, they are not just storing information, they're controlling something. Evelyn's gut twisted. Controlling what? Before Daniel could respond, a loud mechanical hum echoed through the chamber, making the crew freeze in place. The panels on the walls suddenly brightened, their lights flickering to life in rapid succession, casting eerie shadows across the room. The low, rhythmic thrum of power filled the air, and Evelyn could almost feel the pulse of the facility in her bones. It was as if the entire structure had just awakened from a long slumber. "Something's happening," Arya said, backing away from the nearest panel. "It's activating. We need to get out of here now." But before anyone could react, a deafening roar echoed from deep within the facility. The sound reverberated through the chamber like a living thing, rattling the walls. Evelyn's heart skipped a beat. It wasn't the Sentinels. This was something else, something far worse. And then, from the farthest corner of the room, a massive shape began to emerge from the shadows. The crew instinctively backed away, their weapons drawn, as the shape solidified into a towering figure, part machine, part organic, its body covered in glistening black armor. It was humanoid in shape, but the design was alien, unmistakably non-human. The creature's eyes glowed a deep crimson, like two burning embers in the darkness. Its movements were slow but deliberate, and as it stepped forward, the floor beneath it seemed to tremble. Riker raised his weapon, his voice commanding, "What the hell is that?" Daniel's voice was barely above a whisper. "A guardian, like the Sentinels, but different. This one is more advanced. It's protecting something." The creature's head tilted, as if studying them, its crimson eyes locking onto Evelyn. For a moment, the room was deathly silent, the only sound the hum of ancient machinery and the pounding of their hearts. Evelyn could feel its gaze on her, cold and unblinking. "Why are you here?" The voice that emanated from the creature wasn't just mechanical. It was deep, resonant, and filled with an ancient authority. It spoke in perfect, terrifyingly human language, its tone more like a command than a question. Evelyn's breath caught in her throat. The voice wasn't just asking, it was demanding. "We're searching for the truth," Evelyn replied, her voice steady despite the panic that was slowly creeping up her spine. "We came to understand what happened to Earth, what happened to humanity." The creature's eyes flared brighter. "You have awakened the Sentinels. You have disturbed the ancient seal. The past is not for you to claim. Leave now or face the consequences." The temperature in the room seemed to drop, and Evelyn could see her breath misting in the air. The ground beneath her feet vibrated with a low growl, as if the entire facility itself was alive, angry at the intrusion. Arya, never one to back down, stepped forward, her voice cutting through the tension. "We didn't come here to destroy anything. We need to know what happened to humanity, why Earth was abandoned. The map, it led us here." The creature's gaze shifted to her, its expression unreadable. For a moment, there was a pause, a silence so deep it felt suffocating. Finally, the Guardian spoke again, its voice softer now, tinged with a strange sadness. "You seek answers, but some answers are better left forgotten. You have already seen too much." The hum of the facility intensified again, and the ground shook more violently. The massive figure stepped forward, its hands raised, ready to strike. "We cannot allow you to continue," it said, its voice laced with cold finality. Without warning, the creature lunged forward, its movements impossibly fast. In that instant, Evelyn knew their mission was no longer about discovery, it was about survival. They had come looking for the truth, but now, it seemed, the truth would come at a terrible cost. "Run!" Riker shouted, as the room erupted into chaos. The crew turned and bolted for the exit, the Guardian hot on their heels. The facility itself seemed to shake with fury as they fled, the walls closing in around them. Whatever had been hidden beneath Earth for so long was now awake, and it wasn't about to let them leave without paying the price for their intrusion. The chase was relentless. The ground trembled with each step of the Guardian, its immense form barreling through the corridors with terrifying speed, the air thick with the sound of its metallic growls. The crew sprinted through the maze-like tunnels, their lungs burning and hearts racing, but the passageways seemed to stretch on endlessly, offering no respite. The low, ominous hum of the facility was now a constant presence, vibrating through their bones, amplifying the terror that clung to the air like a tangible force. "Go, go, go!" Riker barked, pushing Evelyn and the others forward as the creature's steps echoed closer behind them. Evelyn's breath was ragged as she fought to keep up, her mind racing. She had seen it before, how the facility had come alive when they entered, but now it was as though the very building was against them. The lights flickered and sparks erupted from the walls, filling the air with a harsh, buzzing sound as the energy in the structure surged to dangerous levels. "Where are we going?" Daniel gasped, his voice strained as he glanced behind them. The Guardian wasn't far now, its massive form a dark blur in the flickering shadows. "To the surface," Riker shouted, "but we need to find a way to stop this thing." "Stop it!" Arya nearly shouted. "It's a machine. We can't stop it unless we figure out how it works." "That thing isn't just a machine," Evelyn said, her voice tight with fear. "It's more like a living sentry. It's made to protect whatever is down here, and it's not going to stop until we're either dead or gone." The truth of her words hit hard. The Guardian wasn't just an obstacle. They were fighting something far beyond their comprehension. Their survival depended not only on escaping, but on understanding how the facility had been built, and more importantly, how it could be controlled. They turned a corner, nearly colliding with a metal wall that had mysteriously shifted to block their path. The entire facility seemed to shift and move in response to their presence. The floor beneath them groaned as massive gears clicked and turned, and overhead, steel gates slammed shut, sealing off several passages. The walls were alive, reacting to them like a sentient being, shifting and changing to trap them. "This way!" Arya cried, pointing to a narrow shaft that ran parallel to the corridor. A long metal ladder descended into darkness. Without hesitation, Riker was the first to leap forward, grabbing hold of the ladder's rusted rungs and descending quickly. The rest of the crew followed, sliding down the ladder into the depths below as the sound of the Guardian's pursuit reverberated through the walls above them. They landed in an enormous cavern, dimly lit by the faint glow of ancient machinery. The ceiling was high, the space vast and cavernous, filled with mechanical structures that hummed ominously. "Is this where we want to be?" Daniel panted, glancing around at the shadows that seemed to move of their own accord. "We don't have much of a choice," Riker said, pulling out a map of the facility. "According to this, we're beneath the core now. If we can find the control room, maybe we can override the facility's defenses." "Control room?" Arya echoed, sounding skeptical. "You think we can just flip a switch and make it all stop?" "It's worth a shot," Riker said, his expression grim but determined. "It's either that or we die down here." Evelyn clenched her fists, trying to ignore the panic rising in her chest. The situation had gone from dangerous to life-threatening in an instant, and there was no time to second-guess themselves. If they were going to survive, they needed to act quickly. "Let's move," Riker said. "Keep your heads down. Stay close." They moved swiftly through the cavern, the glow of distant control panels casting strange, shifting shadows. The sound of their footsteps echoed eerily in the open space, but there was no sign of the Guardian. Yet, the further they ventured into the cavern, the more oppressive the atmosphere became. The walls were covered with strange markings, some ancient, some clearly of human origin, but there was something unsettling about them. They seemed to shift, as if alive, reacting to their presence. As they moved past one particular wall, a faint whirring sound echoed, followed by a low mechanical hum, and then the distinct sound of a door opening. The crew turned toward the source, weapons drawn, hearts racing. The door slid open slowly, revealing a massive control room bathed in a cold, sterile light. Inside, rows upon rows of terminals flickered to life, their screens displaying incomprehensible symbols and cascading data. A central platform sat in the middle of the room, surrounded by humming conduits and glowing energy cores. "This is it," Evelyn breathed, feeling a strange sense of déjà vu. "This is the heart of the facility." Riker nodded and gestured for the others to spread out. Arya and Daniel, start hacking into the system. Find out how to shut down the Guardian. The pair moved quickly to the nearest terminal, their fingers flying over the touchscreens and interfaces. They muttered to each other, trying to make sense of the alien technology. The hum of the facility grew louder, and the walls began to shudder again. This time, there was no denying it. The Guardian was close, very close. "Almost there," Arya said, her voice strained as she typed faster. "I think I can access the command center, but I need a few more minutes." "Minutes we don't have," Riker muttered, scanning the control room for any sign of a weapon or defensive system. His eyes narrowed as they landed on a row of glowing panels embedded in the walls. "We need to buy some time. Evelyn, help me with those panels. We might be able to use them to activate a defense mechanism." Evelyn nodded and rushed to join him, feeling the weight of the situation pressing down on her. If they didn't act quickly, the price of their curiosity would be their lives. But deep down, she knew one thing for sure: there was no turning back now. The room was pulsing with energy. Every flicker of the control panels, every hum of the ancient machinery, seemed to echo the thundering footsteps of the Guardian growing nearer. Evelyn's pulse quickened as she and Riker rushed toward the glowing panels. Time was running out, and the heavy air felt thick with dread. "These panels, what do they do?" Evelyn asked, her fingers trembling as she examined the intricate symbols etched across their surfaces. Riker gritted his teeth, pulling out a device from his belt to interface with the terminal. "I'm not sure, but they look like power conduits. If we can reconfigure them, we might be able to reroute the facility's energy. If nothing else, we could trigger some kind of shutdown mechanism." Evelyn nodded, determination flooding her veins as she joined him at the panel. The walls trembled again, and the distant sound of the Guardian's relentless pursuit echoed closer. She could hear its mechanical growl vibrating through the chamber, its massive form moving with terrifying precision. There was no way they'd survive if they didn't do something now. "I'm in," Riker muttered as he connected his device. The screens in front of them flickered briefly, then displayed streams of alien data. "Damn it, this is beyond me. The system's ancient, but it's still active. It's like it's built to protect something." Evelyn clenched her fists. "We don't have time for mysteries. We need to act now." She moved swiftly, activating her own interface device, and started tapping into the nearest panel, scanning for any control functions. The language was foreign, the system alien, but the technology seemed to respond to her presence. She had no idea why, but in that moment, it felt as if the facility recognized her, as if something deep inside was calling her to it. The door at the far end of the control room slammed open with a terrifying screech, and the Guardian appeared, its crimson eyes burning with fury. It stood silhouetted in the doorway, a hulking figure against the dim light, and it spoke in that deep, resonating voice once more. "Leave now or be destroyed," it commanded, its voice laced with ancient power. "Not this time," Riker shot back, his voice steady. "We didn't come this far to turn back." Evelyn's fingers flew across the panel, heart pounding. There was a surge of energy, and the control room lights flickered, then stabilized. A deep, mechanical hum filled the air as the facility began to react to her actions. She knew she was close, if she could just trigger the right sequence. Suddenly, an explosion of noise rang out, a shrill, mechanical scream as the Guardian advanced toward them, its massive metal feet grinding against the floor. "Evelyn, we need to move," Riker shouted, his eyes darting to the massive doors closing behind them, trapping them in with the Guardian. "I'm almost there," Evelyn said, her voice tight, focused. She tapped one last symbol, the most ancient of all, and a rumble erupted from the core of the facility. The lights in the room brightened to a painful intensity. The hum reached a deafening crescendo, and then silence. For a brief, terrifying moment, nothing happened. The air was still, and then, as if the entire facility took a collective breath, the Guardian froze mid-step. Its glowing crimson eyes blinked, then dimmed, the energy in its massive frame sputtering as if it had been disconnected from its power source. Evelyn exhaled sharply, feeling the weight of the room lift. I did it. I shut it down. But Riker wasn't celebrating. His face was pale, his eyes darting to the now-dormant Guardian. That's not good enough. We've bought ourselves a moment, but it won't last. The silence was deafening. Evelyn looked over at Arya and Daniel, who had been huddled near the back, watching the scene unfold with wide eyes. I think the real danger is still ahead, Daniel said, his voice shaky. We've activated something we shouldn't have. The facility is waking up, and it doesn't want us here. Evelyn felt the ground beneath them tremble again, but this time it was different. It wasn't the sound of the Guardian moving. It was the entire facility coming back to life. The humming grew louder, and the walls shifted again like a living organism. What the hell is happening? Arya gasped, looking around in panic. Something's activating in the core, Evelyn realized, her eyes scanning the control panels. This place wasn't just built to protect. It's a vault, it's holding something dangerous. The facility's hum grew into a roar, and the walls began to glow, the ancient symbols flashing as if the building itself was coming alive. A massive mechanical gate slammed down in front of the exit, sealing it shut, and the air became thick with the sound of machinery awakening from slumber. We're not alone down here, Riker muttered, his voice low and grim. There's something worse than the Guardian, and it's about to be unleashed. Evelyn's heart sank. We need to get out, now. But it was too late. With a deafening roar, the facility's core lit up in an explosion of blinding light, and the ground beneath them cracked open. Something ancient, something malevolent, was stirring, and Earth's forgotten past was about to be revealed.